So, hi, everybody, and welcome to the SAP Press book club. And we have a really, actually, this is, so I'm Kendall. I'm your host of the SAP Press book club. And we have a really thick book today. I was dying with the guys. So it is Core Data Services for ABAP. This is a good one. And so they like to write. That's what I said. I was like, do you guys love to write or what? So great book. And we have the authors here, and I would love to get them to intro themselves. So why don't we start off with Ralf? Well, I call him Ralf. He said the German word is Rolf. So.
Yes, so hello, everybody. My name is Ralf. I'm from Germany. I started as SAP more than some 30 years ago in application development. Some things I developed with was a timesheet in HCM, a cross-application timesheet. Maybe you've heard about this. I developed parts of Business by Design. I don't know if everybody remembers it.
I remember that.
I was involved, but then I went back to the business suite. And, since a couple of years now, I'm working in the S/4HANA development. My tasks in this organization now was to introduce core data services to our development within SAP.
Excellent. All right. Well, what about you, Renzo?
Yeah, my name is Renzo, so I'm also working
I'm butchering your names, aren't I? How do you say?
All fine.
Is it Renzo, or how did you say it?
Renzo. Yeah, it's Italian, yeah.
Oh, it's exactly. Italian.
Yeah, sure.
That's funny. So, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm also working in the S/4HANA space in the central architecture team. And there I'm responsible for the end-to-end programming model. And also acting as lead architect for the ABAP RESTful programming model. And also had some experience and history at SAP. Started 1997. Also quite some time. And nice. Also with multiple things, and also with by design and other projects that were going on at that time.
So you've been there for 27 years?
27, yeah.
Wow.
That's right.
There you go. Okay, and we have one more guy here. It's Jan. So go ahead, Jan.
Yeah, hi. My name is Jan. I'm working basically in the same organization as Ralf and Renzo do. I'm there more or less responsible in dealing with CDS, so core data services, which we talk about today, and also with the virtual data model, and from time to time also other projects. I have also some history at SAP, so I'm not that long with SAP as Renzo and Ralf are, but still I'm there for quite some time, have gained experiences in different areas there. And nowadays I'm a member of this suite architecture team, which also Ralf and Renzo are members of.
Excellent. So I wanted to know, first of all, did any of you guys get to go to Hasso's party that was held last week? Yeah,
unfortunately not. No.
Did y'all hear anything about? I heard it was a big to-do.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, no, oh my gosh. Okay, well, anyway, so let's start off with some questions, and let's see what you guys can come up with. So, all right, let's do really easy first of all. So, what are core data services? Who wants to answer that one? CDS. That's what you guys are calling it these days.
I don't know who came up with this name. As always, it's sometimes a bit cryptic. So basically, it's programming language and technology around it that helps us implement business applications. if you go deeper down into the internals, then it's a language for data modeling, a language for data querying, and it inherits quite some aspects from SQL. You probably
Yeah, so
know
it was derived
also.
from SQL?
But the first idea was to make it easier to use. So some language elements were introduced that makes it much easier for the people who define views. We talk about CDS views. So define these views without these deep knowledge about left outer joins and all these technical details. We have other associations, for example, they can be predefined and then easily used by a path notation. And secondly, we can extend it, the information that we can put into CDS. We can extend it much via annotations, and that way add semantic information about the data that is available via these CDS views. And I was really surprised that this turned out to be a foundation for different types of applications. We started with analytics. So the first target was to have a means to exploit our HANA database in analytics directly in the OLTP system. But afterwards, also transactions, external services or data service, data extraction, and events, everything then was based on this CDS platform. And,
so was CDS...
And that's the reason why our book got so big.
So can you use CDS with ECC, or is this just for S4? When did it come out? Like between...
I think S4 started with CDS.
Okay.
We have the first technology also available in some ECC, but only the technology is available, not the content that was developed in the applications. You need a set of CDS views developed by SAP and delivered, so that you can build upon it. And that way, you really gain the benefits of the whole approach. And additionally, we have it in the BTP. In the BTP, ABAP-based business technology platform applications, they also you have CDS. And there are also some CDS views delivered by SAP are available, so that you can build upon them as well.
So how does CDS relate to the VDM of SAP S/4HANA? How does it relate? Like, I mean, is it... I know you said that it started off with S4, and then, but how does it relate to it?
So CDS is... Oh, Jan, do you want to take over?
If you want, you can take over. So I just wanted... So sometimes there's also at SAP this perception that CDS and VDM are somehow synonyms for the same things, but this is not the case. So let's consider it from a more formal perspective. So CDS, this is the technology, the infrastructure components, the language, which we use to implement the data model of S4. And the data model of S4 has, of course, also evolved over time. So we have a lot of legacy tables where experienced customers will know how, for example, the product is being stored in the system. And what we try to do is we want to transform it in a way that it's easier to consume, semantically rich, so that not only the experts are finally able to access and use this data, but also some occasional users that are not that much familiar with the actual application, to make it easier and semantically rich. And this transformation and the outcome of this is what we try to achieve with the virtual data model. So as the word says, it's not the real data model as it is persisted in our system, but it's a virtual representation thereof. And we use CDS as an infrastructure component to implement this data model.
Interesting. Okay, so I got a good one for you. So I actually was asking a couple of people, how do you say this? So are you guys, so what is RAP or RAP? I keep laughing about it. I'm like, who came up with this one? Is this like, what is RAP and or what is, how do you guys, do y'all call it RAP? Or is it, y'all say RAP or RESTful, application programming?
So definitely not RAP, but yeah, as everybody knows, SAP loves three-digit acronyms, yeah, so everything. No, but it's the official name. Obviously, is ABAP RESTful Application Programming Model. Yeah, so that comes to this. I'm not sure whether a RAP, we call it RAP. Yeah, usually internally, I'm not sure whether this is even an official abbreviation. But
yeah, I was wondering.
It's more or less, and maybe you asked the question. Obviously, RAP is not available on ECC. I'm pretty sure because we came up with that only during the course of S/4HANA. But anyhow, I assume every customer will move to S/4HANA with RISE. So maybe also not an issue. But in general, so RAP obviously is it's the name, yeah, a programming model overall, and it extends. So CDS is also somehow part of it. So it extends the data model world with the behavior at the end. Yeah. So with the transactional world mainly. So adding operations, create, update, delete, read, also transactional read, and all actions, functions, everything that you need, and all the aspects that you have to think of in the transactional world, like locking and authorizations. Okay, you have it also for the read, obviously, but different kind of authorization or activities that you need to check, feature control and all that stuff. Yeah, and obviously the full business logic that adds to that. Yeah, when you change data, obviously there is a lot of side effects. You want to verify the data that it's somehow consistent at some point in time. It comes with the draft concept, and for the UI services, for the pure UIs. So there is a lot around that, yeah, and it's growing even today.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
All right, here's a good question for you. See if I can actually say this one correctly. But CDS offers the concept of association besides classical SQL joins. What is the difference between an association and a join in CDS?
Yeah,
Shall I
so
take that one?
Can continue, yes, sure.
CDS guys.
Since we're on this topic.
Yes, I think everybody, I hope everybody here knows what a join is. You have two data sources, two views, and you say how these fit together. You give an on condition, and then you can select from the combination of those. The disadvantage of this approach of using many explicit joins is that every join has a performance impact. If you execute or select data from the joined data source, even if you are not interested in both parts, if you want to select only from one part. And therefore, in CDS, we introduced these associations, which can be considered a potential join. So an association belongs to one of the two data sources, points to the other one. You define an on condition, the way how these two data sources should be joined in the end.
So kind of like, so would it be like viewing like a sales order item and be able to view product? Is that kind of like the...
Yes, right. So if you want to join your sales order item with the product and combine the data, then you can do this anyway, anytime you want, if you have the association from sales order item to product, and you have a path notation where you write association name dot element name in the product, and then this field is available. And you do not have to put the join explicitly, which is sometimes difficult to do if you have the left outer and all that stuff, and to bring every relevant fields in. And this is one of the aspects that make CDS easier to use compared to SQL. And we see it with our developers. Millions of lines of CDS code are written, which would be more difficult to
I'm
do.
sure. Well, how do you actually, how do
SQL.
you handle the access restrictions or the permissions or authorizations for these CDS views? I can't keep that CDS.
Yeah.
Go
So,
acronym.
as Ralf pointed out, there's some relation also to SQL processing. So that's the main aspects we deal with in the S4 space when we use CDS. So we define view models with the mean of CDS infrastructure. And of course, we do not want to have then just the data being fetched from the database, but ideally, this is then automatically combined with authorization checks so that in the end, when you execute a query as an end user, you're not confronted with the fact that you get data you're not allowed to see or access, but only the data you are actually authorized for. And
Do you do
of
that
course,
the same thing with RAP? Is it the same idea between the two?
In RAP, we have basically two approaches to access the data, which is on the one hand side, we also leverage the CDS views for read access. And therein also the same concepts that I will now explain in a second will come into picture. But we have, of course, also during transactions, accesses for changes and so forth that are not read-only accesses, but change operations, as Renzo explained, where we need additional authorization enforcements. And there's also a specific concept for that. But coming back to the plain SQL part, so here we use also an addition that is to be considered a kind of integrated part of the CDS world. It's the DCL data control language, which allows us to specify in the end filter criteria on the data records derived from the authorizations of the user that tries to access the data. And all this for the consumer, it's not visible in this way. He just selects from the CDS model, but automatically these access restrictions are then injected by the infrastructure so that in the end, the result of the select he issues is properly secured from an authorization perspective.
So another thing I was wondering, when you guys were talking about CDS and how it kind of derived from analytics, how is analytics implemented with CDS?
Well, what do we need in analytics? We need a cube that can be combined from multiple data sources. We built this cube as a CDS view. We can combine, for example, the sales order item with the product data, but also with the sales order header data and the customer data into a cube. And then we need the dimensions for all the dimensions, the fields that are there, the product type, for example, or the country of the customer. These are dimensions, and these are also represented by CDS views. So these are the major ingredients, which you know from business warehouses. You have cubes and dimensions. This we implement with CDS. And on top of those, we define analytical queries. And these are also queries that are much comparable to what you know from the BW, SAP BW queries. They are very similar. And they can also be executed by the same front ends, analytical front ends. But this query, again, are defined as special CDS views. And the expressiveness in CDS is sufficient to include all this special stuff, calculated fields, exception aggregation, and whatever you find in analytics with the help of these extensions, partly syntax extensions towards SQL, and partly annotations that are introduced. It runs quite smoothly in our embedded analytics in S/4HANA, where you can directly in your OLTP system analyze your sales orders, for example, sales order fulfillment analysis, where is a delay in my sales order delivery and sales order processing, and you find it with built-in analytics, and then you can act upon it immediately in the system.
So what about clean core? I mean, that's the big topic here, so does CDS support the clean core principles? I mean, can you extend the CDS views? No? Yeah?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm not sure who should answer this question. So, basically,
okay, this is all top secret SAP Press stuff.
No, it's not. So
I'm going to ask you all another question in a minute.
So just have a look at our book and you will find the answers. So it's not secret. So yes, of course, Ralf already mentioned this. So one of the challenges we face with other technologies is that typically we need to add additional capabilities in order to make them really enterprise grade ready. And here with CDS, we start from the very beginning, also considering such aspects as extensibility. So as a customer, you can also enhance the models that we have prepared for that. So there's also certain life cycle attached to that, so that we try to preserve investments of customers on the one hand side and give us still some flexibility on the other hand side to improve and evolve over time our own application logic. But in the end, yeah, you can extend use, and as said, this is for customers possible. In specific in the cloud environment, it's restricted to those that are actually prepared, whereas in the on-premise environment, you can still do a lot more as a customer. Maybe it's not always recommended, but technically feasible. And one of these things is to extend a view model without what we classically would refer to as a kind of manipulation of the original source files, where you need to change something.
Okay, so while I know that everybody, so we're going to open it up to questions from the audience, but before we do that, I love to ask the question, so you guys are on the ground at SAP, you guys know what's happening. So tell me about future plans. I want to know about future plans for CDS. Who wants to give me the latest gossipy stuff before Sapphire? I mean, is there something that's going to be announced, or are you guys working on something that's coming up? Who wants to spill, what is it, spill the tea?
Yeah, there's a lot of going on, obviously. Yeah, so I stated it already. Yeah, also in the space of RAP and CDS also. So we're obviously not at the end, because the programming model needs to cover everything, and there are things yet to come. Especially in the transactional world, there are some open topics, and you have to book. It's quite big, so it's the third edition, so it was growing over time. So in the last 4 years or 5 years, when we started with the first edition. So I'm not sure whether there will be a next edition, and it will be even more but there are a couple of things that are upcoming, like what was mentioned. If we talk about Fiori, we have the draft concept. Now collaborative draft is ready to come, so that really multiple users can work on an object concurrently, together, which is one feature which is upcoming. In the context of Fiori, also WebSocket support, that we get if we start asynchronous processes, as an example, that we get the feedback directly to user, so which is also upcoming. So there are a couple of features that are currently at least not described in the book because they were not there with, let's say, 2023. So if we talk about the on-premise version, but usually, hopefully, so obviously we never know, but usually be there in 2025. Then if we talk about the private cloud.
What about AI? Have you guys been involved in anything with AI yet? Has it been? No?
So what is the foundation for AI?
I don't know.
Data.
Everybody says the new
data
topic.
is the foundation for UI, for AI. And what is CDS about? CDS is about data. So this is the first contribution of CDS. We will probably provide the data. And data within the S/4HANA system, but also data extracted somewhere. So
it's true, because if you don't have data coming in a way that you can actually determine how to analyze it in a structured way, then it's just garbage at that point. So you guys are really kind of pulling it all together so that...
So what we have in CDS is a lot of semantics about the data, about the business meaning of the data that we have in CDS. We have the meta model in our CDS models. And by providing the data together with this meta model from CDS, we bring lots of value for everything that is based on data, including AI. So this is one aspect of CDS and AI. It's more or less the foundation. And there also, don't know if it will be announced or whatever, we have improved, or we are improving our capabilities for extracting data with the help of CDS from the S/4HANA system.
That's cool. What about have y'all gotten into any crazy data coming in, like visual data? Like that would be so cool. Like if you had facial recognition data or video data.
No, it's the same boring business data.
Business data. Oh,
but there is value in it. Yeah.
That's what we need, though. Y'all put that into someone in the topic of really cool things to come. Say visual data. It'd be really neat. Visual recognition. I don't even know how you would do that. Could you imagine? So it is 11:29. So I'm going to open it up to the floor. Let's see what people are intrigued with, because, oh, here's one, but I can't even pronounce the word. Whoever wrote this was super good. Where do you find the latest, is it annotations?
Annotations, yeah.
Yes, annotations. I'm not good at those. So where can we find that? Wouldn't that be on the Partner Finder, Partner Edge?
No, the annotations that you can use in CDS, usually they are described in the sub-help. So in the official documentation, they are usually all described. Also where they take effect, because not all annotations work everywhere. So it's usually all described in the documentation.
Yeah, I find that, SAP Help has a ton of information about literally how to do a lot of things that I shouldn't be doing. I mean, that's what I have found. I was like, wow, you could do all this stuff. So how do you publish a CDS view using OData?
Yeah, if we talk about OData, maybe I take that one, Jan, sorry. There are multiple ways to publish, but let's say what we always recommend for the moment, if we talk about simple CDS view or also structure with annotations and associations, usually with the service binding, this is the artifact that is available in ABAP Cloud even. If we talk about clean core or anything, then you would create a service definition, service binding. There you put in your CDS entities, the ones that you want to publish. If it's one, it's one. If you have multiple, it's multiple. In there, you can also alias, that you get nice entity names, depending on how you name your CDS views or entities. And then you can publish that, and then you can publish it via multiple means. So V2 or data V2 or data V4. We always recommend V4 because here the feature set is much broader. And also here would also be one topic. What is next? I mentioned 2 Fiori examples that are yet to come. But obviously in the OData V4 world, also here there is a lot of things to come, because we have not implemented the full specification yet. So there's also a lot of space to go further. And there you can even publish for UI or API. So usually maybe the question is then rather for API, then you would publish or use the web API service binding type, and then you can use it to connect to the system as an example for side-by-side extensibility or things like that.
So, you guys, this is just my personal question. So you guys have been around for a long time within SAP. Do you think it's become a lot more difficult for a programmer or a lot easier than it used to be? Or, back in the day when it was just ABAP and that was pretty much it, and you had to kind of figure out other things to do. Do you think it's a lot more simple now that, you guys have been working on this for so long?
Yeah, I think it's different, let's say. It's getting different, or it's different than before. I would not say it's easier in that sense. It will become easier probably with AI and wizards and so on. As also for RAP, there is a wizard upcoming that also will make use of Gen AI and things like that. So obviously the new things, also using AI for the developer productivity is a big topic. And this will obviously get it much simpler for the developer. Obviously we talked about data, business data, then we'll talk about business AI, so how to improve the business in this sense. But also there is AI for developer. And so to learn, especially RAP, I think CDS is also on top of SQL. If you know SQL, then probably you get fast to CDS, but there is, associations probably is not that hard to understand, but there is a lot around also with annotations and how to use them and what is the effect, where can you use CDS, and for RAP it's the same. To learn RAP is not that easy, because it's a full programming model, so you have to learn it, you have a ramp-up time. But if you're in it, then you get a lot of things for free. Obviously, we talked about the OData exposure, so you don't need to understand the OData protocol as a developer implementing a service, because the protocol is completely implemented by the infrastructure. You deal on a, let's say, lower level or let's say more abstract level, and not only for OData, we can leverage that in any kind of protocols at the end. So this makes it then much easier from that point of view. But you have to learn, let's say, RAP and CDS as a concept, and this is definitely some ramp up. So it's different. It's not everything.
Yeah, because I heard that it was like almost that the new term is like a full stack ABAP developer, where you're not just one particular, but you're learning, you do other things on top of it to become like a full developer, where instead of it was just like you're an ABAP programmer. Now it's like, if you learn all these other tools, this is kind of where you need to like learn as a, your career path. Don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we also have this, sometimes the impression that everyone can do everything, just because he has developed a CDS model in the past, he is also able to have or is knowledgeable in a certain area to implement an analytical query application or like, just because it's again a CDS model. But in the end, some basics probably, from what you have already experienced in the past and the straightforward processes. And if you want to kind of hello world application, this is easy to construct. So everyone can make this happen in a few minutes. But then it comes to the details. And if you are not knowing what, for example, exception aggregation means in analytics and how it is realized and what needs to be considered when you talk about hierarchy handling there and so forth, then you will have hard times. Yeah, you know, probably the annotations, you see, okay, this was done this way, but you need to understand how it's also being leveraged then by the infrastructure. And even though this is all probably bound to the data model, to the CDS data model, there are lots of annotations in you need to be also able to understand them. Now, so it's not that you can simply transfer them just because they worked in this area, it will also work in this area. So this is a misperception. You need to understand this. And this needs also some experience, like for any other development, like in the past when you defined your BW reports and the like.
Oh, yeah.
So not every developer was able to do this. Yeah. And nowadays, everything is more or less centric to the data model captured with CDS. So this is the starting point. We have a lot of annotations that derive capabilities out of the main, or let's say the view model is the SQL part, but then we have a lot of additional metadata on top that's interpreted by the infrastructure components, and then it depends. Yeah? So shall it be a search model? So shall it be an analytical model? Shall this model be used in a transactional application environment? And so, yeah, you need to understand what you need to do then to make this happen.
Let me tell you the next question. If you, how do I deal with the CDS performance issue?
May I interrupt? Because there's one aspect. Your question was, is it easier now or more difficult?
Oh, yeah, that's right. What do you think?
There's one aspect. Other two talks were more about technology. But there's also the aspect of business data and understanding of the business data. And this has fundamentally changed. In the past, there were cryptic database tables with cryptic attribute, the names, Kostel, Cockers, Bookers. I know it. I don't know if you ever heard about that.
I heard it was written in German, half the stuff. You couldn't even understand it.
But there are millions of those, yeah? And nobody can know all of them. And with our BDM, and the CDS technology, we tried to change this, and I think we have achieved to change this, because now we are using English names, standardized English names that express for the names of the CDS views and also the names of the fields, of the attributes. And this makes it much, much easier to understand the business content, the business semantics of this. And this is a change that I definitely see, an improvement over the past.
I agree. If you name it finance, it knows where to go. Well, all right. So how do you deal with CDS performance issues? Anybody want to take that?
Well, we should avoid them, of course. Now, so in the end, you have to understand that there's always some physics behind. Yeah? So if you define a CDS model and you expect it to work very fast to provide the data in an efficient way, also the CDS SQL that you defined should also be easy to execute for the optimizer on the HANA database. Yeah? Otherwise, it might not work in all situations. Even if it's there in your test system, in your test environment, you test with some dummy data, with some dummy authorizations and the like, with some dummy select statements. You should try to, when you do the test, do them with data that matches actually the constellation in your productive environment. So that you do not get wrong assumptions out of what you have tested. And of course, there are pitfalls. Yeah. So Ralf mentioned, for example, associations. Yeah? So associations, they look quite promising, and it's very easy to add additional fields from other data sources, and you can define quite easily association paths in your CDS models. And then, but finally, what this means is that you create a lot of joins. Yeah, and this has some performance implication. Yeah, and you should be careful with that. So you should consider do I really need this data at this point? Yeah, so is it really required in this context?
So don't
If not,
overdo it.
don't include it. Yes,
Yeah.
that's basically the principle. Yeah. So there's some myth about that the HANA optimizer will take care of all these aspects and try to figure out the best execution plan. Yeah, it does its best. Yeah, it's very complicated logic, algebra on the SQL level that is being executed, and it does this job very well. Yeah, but if you as a developer do silly things, you cannot expect that they will then work well performing in the end. Yeah, so you should take performance into account, because typically, as I also mentioned, also in the transactional applications, the read access will be delegated to the database, and it should be fast, of course. Yeah, you want your application to work in a responsive manner, and you should then take care that you do not overload all the actual select logic that you need to have with additional things that are probably not really needed.
Yeah, that's true. So here's another question for you guys. How do you publish a CDS view using OData?
Yeah, so we had this question already.
Yeah, so I think Renzo already took up this point when he said that basically we recommend, when you have some OData service to be implemented, to use this concept of service binding, service definition to do that. This has some limitations. So for example, in analytics, as of today, we still need to use what we call auto exposure, which means this is driven by a specific annotation you add to the query model, which will then in turn also create finally an OData service out of your query model.
So what does OData stand for? Do y'all know?
OData, that's the Open Data Protocol.
So it stands for Open Data?
Open, yeah.
Open. Okay.
Open Data Protocol, yeah. Yes, from Microsoft, and SAP is strongly contributing to that one.
Interesting. So here's the next question for you guys. Is there any tooling available to transition from CDS views to CDS entity views?
Yeah, so here you see that we already have some legacy also in the CDS space. So not just in the application stack, but also in the infrastructure. When we started with CDS, the main focus was to make the existing data we have persisted accessible and consumable. And we leveraged a lot of existing infrastructure at this point. Means that we also included then a lot of logic that is attached to classic DDIC views when we dealt with CDS views. And this had proven to be not ideal. So we switched this attempt and now separated the CDS views from the classic DDIC with the CDS view entities, as they are now referred to, sometimes also called V2 views or version 2 views in CDS. So it already indicates it's a new evolution step. And if you have a view that is nowadays defined as a let's say regular
like
view, old view, V1 view, whatever you like, and you want to turn it now into a view entity or V2 view, then there's also a report provided by our infrastructure which helps you in achieving this. So if you have done everything correctly already with your V1 view, with your old view, then it's a straightforward process. If there are some inconsistencies which you have not dealt with so far, you will encounter that with the view entities. There will be stricter syntax checks, for example, and they will also force you to do some adaptations. And the report, which is provided by the infrastructure, will then give you this information. It will also try to do some automated conversions if needed and possible, to make then the view entity model become syntactically correct, and also from a modeling perspective correct.
Gracious. Well, what about here's the next question. Does SAP have sample CDS views, just like we have in ABAP code samples, like ABAP doc? Are there samples that people can view? No?
I don't. So at least we have a lot of examples in our book. Yeah. So
oh, that's true. That's true. There are. You don't need ABAP
sure,
doc.
so.
You need the book. Oh my gosh, you're right. Look, guys, there is literally. They have it down to all the views.
All information is in. Yeah? And regarding the migrations here, I think it's even available as context menu in ADT. Yeah, there is also an option to migrate to V2.
Y'all even have parameters around the views and everything. Everything. I'm telling you guys, y'all need to get this. So here's the next. How can we make a hierarchy using CDS views? Example, cost center hierarchy with N+ levels.
Ralf, you want to?
Hierarchy.
Sorry, I had a problem with internet. Could you repeat the question?
Of course. How can we make a hierarchy using CDS views? Example, cost center hierarchy with N+ levels.
Yes. So there's a hierarchy engine built into the HANA. And this hierarchy engine can be leveraged from CDS. You need to bring your data into a proper parent-child relation format. And then this data can be evaluated, traversed, or aggregated along the hierarchy by the HANA hierarchy engine. And this hierarchy can be leveraged in analytics, or it can also be used via RAP for displaying data hierarchically or maintaining the hierarchy. Specifically, the cost center hierarchy is a bit difficult because it is stored in quite old database tables, but the financial colleagues have implemented the sort of transformation for the cost center hierarchy into new persistence. And on these new persistence, hierarchies are already defined and available delivered by SAP. So there are CDS views that represent cost center hierarchy. That can
so look for the CDS tools around hierarchy. There's some tools around hierarchy within CDS.
Right. First, this one, and secondly, the financials team has developed CDS hierarchies for the cost center, and this is delivered by SAP, and these hierarchies are available for reuse by customers. So if you want to build something where you need the cost center hierarchy, then you can define your own stuff and reuse the cost center hierarchy delivered by SAP.
That makes sense. Here's the next question. How can I pull the data out of S/4HANA using CDS views when pulling from Azure?
Maybe there are multiple ways again. Yeah, so obviously, coming back to the OData questions, you could publish or create OData services on top of your CDS entities to fetch the data, and or usually what we also offer, but I'm not sure whether this is available, at least in our cloud, public cloud, are the what they call CDI services, so data extraction services that, other than the usual OData services that we can create or you can create, that don't support delta payload. The CDI services, also OData v4 services, they also support delta. So you can also fetch lots of data, because then you package that and put it into portions, or only fetch what has been changed since the last time. So this is usually the way that you would go.
So that's funny you said that, because the next question actually has something to do with this. So what are the differences in CDS for S/4HANA on, let's see, S/4HANA Cloud Public or Private? Or what is it? What are the differences between those two? I guess, public and private would be like grow and rise now.
Regarding CDS level, yeah, so the difference let's say on the CDS technology, there is no difference, yeah, because the ABAP platform we use the ABAP platform, and the ABAP platform is the same, yeah, in public cloud, private cloud, on premise, whatever you use as for HANA edition. Where it gets different is in the application space. So the S/4HANA product itself, yeah, this is why these are different products. Obviously, the scope is different. Yeah, there are features in the public cloud that might not be there in the on-premise world, and there might be features in the on-premise that are not there or not yet available in the public cloud. It depends a little bit. So it's different products really, and obviously different discussions.
So public cloud is mainly the HANA databases where it messes up the.
No, also the database. The database is always HANA. Also, this is the same. Yeah. So obviously, in the public cloud, we try to leverage HANA Cloud in this case, obviously. And in on-premise, I think it's HANA 2.0. But also here, the differences, at least at the moment, are minor. Yeah. So usually, this is rather on the scope. It's a scope question. Yeah. So what is available, what is not available, and probably why? Yeah, because it's not needed. Different customers, different customer space.
Yeah, that's true.
The private cloud includes some industry solutions in addition, which we do not have in the public cloud. Yeah, I think that's a major difference. The certain industries that are not yet in the public cloud.
That's true. Do you know I was at a conference in for regulated industries. Do you know that most of this stuff has not been written for NS2 to be done? They actually rewrite most of the applications. I did not know that. Isn't that crazy for the government? Yeah, the federal government here in the US requires certain things, and they rewrite the software over. So most of the government agencies don't have access to a lot of this stuff. I had no idea. I was floored. But anyway, that's your what is it? Tip of the topic of the trivia question of the day. Okay, here's the next question for you guys. Do people use native CDS views or ABAP CDS views? Which one do they use more?
I'm not sure what exactly native CDS views means. So yes, with the context probably of what the former question was about with the V1 views, so the former views, there we had the separation of the CDS view model as such. So this was what you have defined with CDS syntax, and the actual runtime artifact that you used for execution. Here you had a DDIC view, and you could then, within your select, basically use the one or the other. Yeah, we always recommended to use then the CDS model, yeah, because this is the artifact that you have defined. The other one is more or less a technical mean to push down this logic to the database, but it was not really intended to be used outside this context, so explicitly by the applications or by customers. And with the V2 views, so the view entities that were newly introduced, you anyway only have left the CDS model part. Yeah, so you cannot access any DDIC view because it doesn't exist. Yeah, you can only access the CDS model. And if you have written a statement in your ABAP code, for example, where you fetch data from a CDS model and you used the CDS view as a data source in that select statement, then you should be fine. now, because this still exists after the migration that we talked about formally. Now, if you have used the DDIC view instead, which technically you could have also been using, at least in the on-premise environment, then you need to switch to the CDS model because, as said, the DDIC view will no longer exist after the migration. So I'm not sure whether this was actually the question. Because
I don't know, but it was very interesting. So here's the next question. Will you be able to apply parallel processing to CDS view queries? Will you be able to apply? Yeah.
Not sure what is meant. So obviously CDS, if you access CDS, it's at the end, it's SQL. Yeah. So it's pushed down usually to the database, in this case to HANA, and whatever HANA does, they will do. Yeah. If we talk about parallel processing, I only know it from the, let's say, transactional world. If you really do something, you might also only reading data. Yeah. And this is something that you can do in RAP, in your transactions, if you have a function, as an example, if you talk about read, or rather if you have processes that are working, background processes, whatever, but it could also be online, and you have something that you could do in parallel, then you can use the classical means of parallelization. Yeah? So this is not yet cloud enabled, also something hopefully yet to come, but so if we talk about ABAP cloud, clean core, you only want to use things that will never change and are stable. But technically you can leverage that one.
So this is the last question, guys, because we have 3 minutes left. And this is the best, I think. What is the future of ABAP in general? How relevant will it be in the next 5 to 7 years? Well, ECC is still in maintenance until I think they pushed it out. So what do you think,
ECC
guys?
Is not. Yeah, definitely. So we always say ABAP is here to stay. Yeah, so definitely. Yeah, and S/4HANA is out there, and ABAP Cloud, Steampunk, also internal name, is available on BTP, on the business platform, technology platform. And wherever ABAP makes sense, and there are a lot of cases where it makes much more sense to use something, to use it instead of something else. There are other use cases that will work better with other approaches. But if you are in the space of especially S/4HANA and extending that one, then often it makes more sense to extend it in stack, in the system, instead of implementing something around, which is also possible. But then you have to deal with asynchronity, eventual consistency, and potentially longer runtimes because of latency and so on. So you have to think about what is the better approach. And obviously, I think if we talk about 5 to 7 years, ABAP will be there, definitely.
Don't you think it's just kind of mutating around? Like if you're an ABAPer, you need to kind of like, literally like we were talking, learn different tools, put in your bag different tools so that you're not, 5 to 7 years, once we're off maintenance, you should be able to, be a much more versed ABAP developer. So you have different tools, different products. Because I know that Signavio actually is a different language. I didn't know if y'all knew that, but, so there's, I think ABAP's going to be around for a while, but
yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely. We'll be there for a very long time. And if you're an ABAP developer, if you talk about new tools, what you should learn is definitely CDS and RAP, because this is what is the new stuff, and the new kids in town. And probably not that new anymore, but yes, this is, let's say, the future of ABAP, let's say.
There you go.
This ABAP cloud and programming model.
So that's what we need to do is everybody, we need to learn core data services for ABAP if you're an ABAPer. And don't forget to buy the book. It has all of the information in it. And because we're doing the book club, if you do book club 15, we'll get 15% off your book. I have my own coupon code, which is so cool. So book club 15, And I want to thank all of you for coming. And I want to thank you guys too. That was great. Very technical. Loved it. And so if you're coming to Sapphire, any of y'all going to Sapphire? It's coming up. We have a week until Sapphire. So if not, you guys will be there. I'll be there. Come hit me up. Ask me some cool technical questions and I can get them back to these three and we'll get them answered for you. So thank you again. Thank you so much. And y'all have a good one. Thank you. Bye. Cheers.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.